Shipping cattle from Northern Australia means dealing with challenges of extreme tides. Anybody who's been there would appreciate that. And our next speaker works for a company that's found a solution to this issue. Chris Ciriello is a seasoned business development professional who combines passion for relationship building with hands-on experience in logistics and cross-cultural engagement. Chris is with Kimberley Marine Support Base, and will you please welcome him to the dais.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having, here we go. Beautiful. I'm hoping I'll be able to see the screen so I can give you a bit of information as we go through. So thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I really want to give you a bit of an understanding of what we're doing and why we're doing it with the KMSB, which is the Kimberley Marine Support Base. Let me start with why. So we actually built quite an interesting, unique team. Andrew Natter, who was the ability to start the first Marine Support Base in Onslow, and as we developed up, we kept expanding. My name is Chris. I'm the Executive Manager, Corporate Commercial Development. My role is effectively commercial alignment. It's jumping by itself. Commercial alignment, operational readiness, and stakeholder confidence. So if we start looking at, we'll get there. Yep. Clicker's not working. Hey, there we go. Okay, come back to that. So KMSB, we have two sites. One in Broome, which is our premier site, and the other one in Port Hedland that is coming online. Our other sister city also incorporates Onslow, Ashburton, and soon to be Karratha. As we keep expanding our footprint, we have the multi-port capability to service multiple industries from oil and gas, agriculture, mining, minerals, renewables, general freight, and project cargo. So this timeline kind of speaks for itself. So if you look at the KMSB, we started in 2017. There was a little thing called COVID somewhere in the middle, which I'm sure affected quite a few different industries. And by 2025, we were operational. I thought I'd start with a little bit of an interesting story. My brother-in-law is a farmer, and I've seen firsthand the challenges producers face when moving long haulage routes, variable freight costs, and also issues with other facilities. The pressure of road transport and also fuel volatility. Great. So logistical complexity and unpredictability cuts into margins, reliability, and also the planning confidence. That lived experience is combined for myself to ensure that my experience across diverse supply chains is really about making something real and practical improvements. That's why I'm proud to be part of KMSB. We've been able to find a solution for those inefficiencies. One of my favourite quotes was, I was lucky enough to speak with an environmentalist up in the Kimberley, and she spoke to us about the difficulties of having not only the livestock industry but other new facilities which would take away from the beautiful, pristine environment. We're lucky enough, this whole project, we're about 100 square metres in the seabed. They've seen new form of life that have actually come through, and she had this quote, "The facility has been built for the north, not retrofitted to it." So when we came in, the current facility had 14 different levels of road on the way in, It had other issues, title issues, and that was quite an interesting comment coming from her. Our wharf removes the biggest barrier to the North logistics, which is title dependency. So from conception to inception, our first pile was driven in June 2024. It was the same time the first part of the steel of the actual wharf was cut. And then by the time we actually completed the project in April 2025, which equates to 10 months from first pile, first steel cut, to the completion of the project itself, with the official soft launch and commissioning in September 25. Some of the piles themselves, as you can see, are in the vicinity of 1.3 metres in diameter to 1.8 metres. So we've had the ability to offer a new solution with a floating facility. That photo that you'll be able to see on the right-hand side, that's a 1.8 metre pile. So with 1.8, which is about my size, there's a jacket that sat over the top of that, which is what I'm going to show you in a minute. Those 6 piles in a row, which holds our restraint jacket so the facility can float, there was 20 mil of difference between having any alignment off, not having fit that structure in the right place. The actual wharf itself is 165 metres long, with our 2 floating dolphins, provides 265 metres of berth line. It is 50.4 metres wide, which means that we can actually drive triples and quads on the facility, which you'll get to see in a video in a minute, which means for efficiency, for loading, that is our biggest focus. We have a link span. So a link span is our floating bridge between the floating pontoon and also the causeway. The causeway is our fixed point, which is about 400 metres, and it is 12 metres wide. So I'd like to play this. This kind of gives you a bit of an understanding. I'm sure you've heard enough facts and stats for today. So this wharf was floated in one piece on a semi-submersible vessel, which means it sits underneath, it deflates itself and then inflates, and it was floated over in one piece. So that's our restraint jackets. Those things sat over the piles with, they're 26 metres high, 900 tonne of steel. So once they were placed on those piles, like we said, we had 2 centimetres of space between dropping that on efficiently. So from the first pile, building out a hand-over-hand system meant that we had our causeway, which is our fixed point, with our gangway and link span creating. And this, again, I've had quite a few people ask whether this is a render or it's an actual footage. So this is actual footage of the facility. We ran our drone through it. So they're 40-metre tugs that are pushing it into place. And what you can see, if you just look down next to the big black restraint structure, which is that pole sort of checked area, they are big clasps. So those clasps were pushed in place and then welded closed, and that is how the facility stays attached to the land and floats up and down. We previously, as you'll see in a few photos in a little while, had the Crown Princess, which is a 300-metre vessel. It's nearly 50 metres wide, and that stayed along at the second lowest tide of the year. So we started at 0.1, went to 10.9, back to 0.1, back to 10.8. So it's a 6-hour window for 4 different tides, and we had that facility alongside. So that facilitated 3,000 passengers, 200. Sounds great. So this, I thought I'd show because this is our inaugural vessel. So this was a heavy lift vessel, which is the same as mineral sand or fertiliser vessel that will be coming along. So we've been lucky enough to have that for our opening. Great, I'll just use the photo. So that vessel came along, it's 185 metres. We have the capacity to take 350 metres. So we can actually, in planning, we've already looked at it, having 2 cattle vessels at the same time. This was our inaugural lift, which is an ESP6. So that crane gives us 50 metres reach. And a heavy lift, so we're over 125 tonne. KMSB's not only invested in the port, we've actually invested in a lot of infrastructure and civil infrastructure throughout the facility. So we've spent nearly 40 million between the roundabout and other facilities, changing roads, changing water, electricity, power. This is sort of an explanation for yourselves that we can look at running triples and quads, modules directly on the facility, off the facility. And there's a lot more that goes in the planning phase as we work through with different vessel owners, whether it be where you're loading, where your cattle doors are, how do we moor the vessel itself, to having and ensuring the traffic management plans are efficient. I'll start by the more exciting pieces for you guys. So this you'll see is the facility itself. Again, 50.4 metres wide, the ability to turn triples and quads. I think I saw my RTA man somewhere here. Yep. So we had runs of different long haulage, utilising quad trucks and turning them on the facility at different heights. So we have a 24/7 operational window. So I'm just letting that sink in a bit, that video. So the advantage we have is we have the ability to stage on the facility itself, whether it be fodder, different minerals, cargo. So for us, it's really about the operational backbone. From our first, hopefully this works. The other thing is we've already started looking at and doing and completing some night operations. I think I'll spend a little bit more time for this. With KMSB, we've already had four cattle vessels alongside. Now, as a soft launch in September, we're able to run a few different numbers. After our first vessel, we actually spent a bit of time together, both in Broome and also in head office, to look at efficiencies to make sure that we can actually apply and create a better service for customers. So when I start looking at loading times, from our first vessel, we were able to expand and look at how do we actually position the truck, how do we encourage the drivers to actually help facilitate. So within an extra 8 minutes of loading, we actually were able to load an extra 1,026 head. So when we start looking about the efficiencies, for us, we are a privately owned facility. We want to ensure that we help every industry become more efficient and put money back in your own pocket. The current at KMSB, well, the previous facility would run some in the vicinity between 3 trucks per hour. With their expansion, the ability to not have to break down trucks. We've looked at having quads and triples. We definitely will load more as we keep going, but we've run at the present, after the last couple, of 4 trucks per hour. And then you can see in the bottom right-hand corner some of those figures. The real competitive advantage is the facility itself with the wharf. So you can see in the top left-hand corner, that was a Crown Princess that we spoke about at the start. That's 0.1 metre of tide. Just below that, that's sort of mid-tide. And then you can see in the top right-hand side, that is our causeway and links bed, so the width to be able to drive modules, machinery, etc. down the facility. That same causeway in the bottom right-hand, the gangway in the bottom right-hand corner is the same that you will see at different angles in the other photos. So we've been lucky enough, again, everyone's pretty excited to run their first cattle, trucks, and then fodder. For someone that's interested in the cattle industry, like myself, it was quite an experience to be there. The exciting piece for us is that KMSB is the owner and operator of the facility itself. So booking directly, we talk about 4 sort of key areas, one being the quayside, so that's berthing your vessel alongside. 2, your land side, so staging on the facility itself, on the backlands, instead of waiting and trying to have just in time, whether it be fodder for your vessels, having that ability to stage. Service, KMSB is expanding our team. We have 20 hectares of land that we're also bringing on, and we've got from heavy lift equipment, from cranes to forklifts to reach stackers, everything else that is needed. The exciting piece, we will have the fastest fuel in the coming months across the whole northwest. So servicing vessels for fuel will end up at 200,000 litres an hour. You see some of our strategic land. We've got some within 1 kilometre and then about 1.8 kilometres, of which we are currently in production. I won't touch too much on the whole shipping side. For us, it's about creating, and we've done a lot of different construction, and also we've done a lot of modelling, whether it be vessels, whether it be haulage, whether it be saving, whether it be cattle losing weight, depending on depending on how far the cattle have to travel. So that's one piece that we highlighted quite quickly within the industry. We're lucky enough to present to the KPCA and also PGA and had them walk through the facility. I know I can see a few of them around today. It's definitely worth a conversation, because until you're able to see the facility and the efficiencies that come with it, we had a few that were looking at whether this would effectively double the cattle industry through the Kimberley, the amount of vessels that come through. I'll just spend a second on this. So we looked at the differences. So whether it be road haulage, so Darwin versus KMSB or Broome. So there was a piece that was done which spent a fair bit of time out of Port Hedland, so East Pilbara, in through either facility, whether it be Fremantle, Darwin or KMSB, and we looked at the efficiencies of shipping, haulage, CO2. So there's quite a few numbers in regards to how we're able to support the industry and saving, with the ability to load 24/7, have a supply chain which is shorter in routes, less double handling, not splitting of cattle vessels, haulage, and the reliability of scheduling as you work with the owner of the facility itself, and then the limited risk of demurrage. I'll just touch on, I'll say in closing, KMSB for us is now not a theory. It's not a theory, it's engineered. We've already operated across multiple different industries. So we've been able to look after defence, minerals, and also some cattle industries. It is here now for real operations, and it's the strategic lever for a lot of agriculture, for our pastoralists, our transport companies, and the operators through the northwest. I think the north now has a facility for its needs, not adapted to them. And we welcome the opportunity to work with you, whether it be saving an operation of certainty across different supply chains, whether it be minerals, agriculture, feed, or needs. I've been lucky enough to even been asked in the last week whether we'll export goats, camels. Maybe that's a conversation for after. Thank you.